Ladies and gentlemen, rock art fans out there, welcome to Musical People and Journeys MPJ Album of the Year review show. Welcome. Most of my panel are here. Most of our reviewers over the year are here. Let's introduce them. Simon Reed, welcome.
Hello.
Paul Matthews, welcome.
Hello.
Chris Cully, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Trish, rock chick Trish, friend to all of our wonderful rock friends, rock band out there, covered in their tattoos. Welcome, Trish White.
Good morning.
And none other than welcome to William Hall.
Hi.
So we are missing Dom Thundercrack Clark, and we're missing Bangers and Mash Dave, who can't be with us today. Ian Venner, he is joining us at some point. He's having some issues, so if you see somebody pop up at the last minute, we can welcome him as and when he can join us. But that's the intro to our gang. What's the show about? Well, today we are going through our top 20 albums of the year. Albums that have reached our Hall of Fame. Oh yeah, 10, 20 albums. And we're going to run down on those. And if you want to check them out, we do have a playlist on our YouTube channel. And there's a song from each of the albums where you can go and check them out and see what you think. So without further ado, let's kind of run through. And interestingly, showing that we're a truly international album review gang, where they're hailing from. So, in no particular order, because other than maybe what they appeared into our Hall of Fame, we have Elysion with Bring Out Your Dead and hailing from Greece. Dun, dun, dun. Phantom Elite and their album Blue Blood from Holland. Two from Germany, the next two from Germany. Beyond the Black with their album Beyond the Black, and KickHunter Now or Never from Germany. Raven Age, the first of our UK bands. Welcome to them and their album Blood Omen. Now the next three are all USA. Colony House album Cannonballers. Sundowners The Answer, From Ashes to New Blackout. From Italia, we have Winterage and Nekyia. From Sweden, bizarrely, apparently the home of metal, but only one Swedish band made it, Soen, with their album Memorial. Another one from Holland, within Temptation and Bleed Out. White Raven Down, and Don't Shoot the Messenger from the UK. Edge of Paradise, Hologram from the USA. Electric Callboy and their album Tekkno from the USA. And then we have Blackbriar, their album Darkophonia from Holland. Fall Out Boy, So Much from Stardust from the USA. Angus McSix from Sword of Power. Now, you're my aficionados. Where is Angus McSix from? Anybody know?
The lead singer is from Switzerland.
He is.
So technically Switzerland.
Switzerland, you're absolutely right. And joining him from Switzerland was Seliena Telli, her album Addicted to Colour. Wargasm UK Venom, funny enough, from the UK. And finally, not from a different part of the world, Lovebites, and their album Judgement Day from Japan. Now, none of my panel knows who is going to be victorious here as well. And when you look at our Hall of Fame, You've got to say the lead runners here are the four, or the hot favourites, shall we say, based on our ratings in our Hall of Fame, should in theory become a battle of the female singers, the female lead singers. So, because you have Elysion with Christina Hatzamalhali, I think that's how you pronounce her name, Marina La Doroca from Phantom Elite, Jennifer Hubben from Beyond the Black, and Sharon Den Adele from Within Temptation. Those are the hot favourites based on there, but based on obviously will KickHunter come in with Stefan, will Fall Out Boy, will somebody come along, will a male singer come along and spoil the fun. So it's kind of interesting because like some of the people, I just want to ask some opinion here, because a lot of people say that that those four Bring Out Your Dead, Blue Blood, Beyond the Black, and Within Temptation are symphonic metal. But I last year's winner, which was obviously Vision Atlantic, I would say that's out and out symphonic metal. I personally wouldn't say that this is out and out symphonic metal. I think it's a combination of hard rock and symphonic metal. That these sort of albums. What do you think, William? William. Well, actually, let's go to Simon first of all. Simon, would you agree with that? Would you say that they're not out and out symphonic metal?
Yeah, no, I don't think they are. But I think it's always these things. It's like trying to define subgenres. You start getting into like intricate details and stuff. I think bands blur the lines of these subgenres a lot anyway with their music. So, I mean, yeah, you could like Xandria and stuff. Like you can claim it's definitely symphonic metal. But these ones, I don't know. Some of the tracks are, some of them aren't.
It is blurred. What do you reckon, Will? You're a bit of a symphonic model god. Model?
Am I?
Are you a model?
Well, could be. Who knows? Wouldn't you like to know? Yeah, I mean, basically what Simon said, it's in this modern time, there's people sort of blur the line of genre too much. So, like, their overall band genre could be still symphonic metal. It's just that this specific album feeds into more elements from other bits. So, overall, the majority of it is still a symphonic metal album. It's just they've incorporated a lot more stuff into it to make it more diverse.
Yeah.
So, the more just pure symphonic metal they do, the less people are going to like it because it's it gets the same as everyone else. So they bring their own bits. So it's almost their own spin on symphonic. It's probably the best way I can think to say it.
I wanted to ask Chris actually, because Chris, you kind of had to binge because you've joined us late in the year, but you wanted to be part of the show and you wanted to vote. So you've literally binge listened, I should say, to all of these albums in kind of one go. And you mentioned something was kind of pre-show in terms of the standard. What did you think of the standard of the music of all of these 20 albums?
Well, let's say, as you said, I joined late in the year. I only joined in September, but I have to say, it almost feels like you've kept me away from all the good music this year, certainly in the last 4 years of the 4 months of the year, because there's some of the stuff from our top 20 that were in the other shows that we've done, and it's just kind of some of the stuff that was really good here. It was brilliant, and partly possibly because I've had to do it. I've had a setback over the month. Then I had to kind of compress things a little bit as well. And so it's just there was a lot of very good music very quickly. And I missed quite a lot from this year, as it turns out. And now I've got a whole back catalogue that I need to go listen to while listening to stuff next year as well. So we'll see how it goes. But so there's some real standouts. I was we'll come on to some of the other stuff later on. But I was one of the things for me was I was really surprised with was I didn't properly listen to the Fall Out Boy album when it came out because I kind of had a bit of a falling out with Fall Out Boy a few years ago just because they kind of went in a direction that I wasn't as much of a fan of as Under the Cork Tree when they first started. Loved all of that stuff and then it kind of changed. But no, just going back to and listening to that again, that's one of the standouts for me that just I keep going back to it. But there's also from Ashes to Do, Elysion, KickHunter, those sorts there's a whole load there that I'm digging into more and more and finding a whole load of new music that I've missed earlier on in the year. And there's a whole load of new stuff coming out for me. So it's been really good, really a lot of fun.
It would be interesting, isn't it, to see the albums that came out in the year, and most of the ones that we mentioned came out right at the beginning of the year. So would they have stood the test of time, and would they have still been fresh in the memory? Well, we're going to find out. But before we do, one of the things that I wanted to ask you all was what album that was not in the Hall of Fame that you've loved, that you have seen in the Hall of Fame in the final top 20. And we're going to get the big one out of the way first, chaps. We're going to get the big elephant out of the way first of all here. And we're going to go to Trish. Trish, then let's talk about your biggest regret of the year, shall we? An album that you would have loved but didn't get into the Hall of Fame. What would that be, Trish?
I have to eat humble pie, don't I? It was Black Orchid Empire, Tempus Veratus.
Because me, Simon, and Ian, we're not going to blame Will because it wasn't quite Will's cup of tea here, but he was partly responsible for it. But me, Will, and Simon, Simon, and Ian just adored this album. We give it 5s, and so the story kind of goes. I said to Trish, "You've got to listen to this album again," but no, she gave it a low rating, and subsequently. Trish, I believe you've watched them 3-4 times, got tattoos of them now, and Is that right?
Yeah.
So still on the fence about
I love you.
I know, right? Well, and yes, I mean, I'll pick another album, but that would have been my biggest my biggest regret, them not being in there as well. They've definitely been in my top 5. Okay, Paul, what about you? We haven't heard from you yet in your dulcet tones. What album that didn't make that Hall of Fame would you have liked to have seen in the top 20?
Well, there was 2 actually, but I think the biggest one would have been The Hives, the death of Randy Fitzsimmons. I love that album. And I suppose the other one would have been Creepers, Sang With Or, but definitely The Hives.
The Hives. As far as indie rock goes, I think it was a terrific album, so I'm kind of go with that one as well. How about Simon? How about you? What's your kind of
my kind of
album? What album? Album?
Sorry, I didn't know if you were leading into a different question. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Godsmack's album because I listen to that thing all the time. It's such a good album. I wish it had made it into the top, but I just know that this panel doesn't like. Well, apart from one particular fellow connoisseur, but people don't like the heavier stuff. So, but yeah.
Well, I think there's 3 of you now, isn't it? You could probably put Dom now into that category. So
yeah,
that's kind of growing, really, isn't it? So from your stuff as well. Will, what about you? What album?
For me, without a shadow of a doubt, not even a second's consideration, despite it coming out last year, as is a trend for me, but we've reviewed it this year, is Architects, the classic Symptoms of a Broken Spirit.
Yeah.
Because it's a phenomenal, incredible piece of metalcore, that album. It is just fantastic. Every song is it just blew me away. I've good few tracks on it were my top songs of this year, and it's just everything is perfection in this album. And I'd say it's a crime for it not to be in there, but there's a slight trend against metalcore in this panel. So
by the way, the album that I'm going to mention is also a crime. There's no 2 ways about it. I feel your pain of an absolute criminal crime for my particular. Chris, I mean, obviously you've had a binge watch, but was there any albums that you listened to this year that you would have liked to have either seen reviewed or that didn't quite make it?
So I actually have to agree with Simon for Godsmack as one of the albums that I've gone back and listened to. Who knows? Maybe there's a 4th that I was hiding in the background. But yeah, so Godsmack was a surprise that didn't get through because, in fairness, it's a brilliant album. It's kind of reawoken my fandom of those. But no, the actual one that I was surprised at is the one that I think I've given the highest rating to since I started reviewing, which was History Books' Gaslight Anthem, because that's kind of it's a new group that I'm listening to more and more. Aside from binge listening to everything I've had to for the podcast, it's just I keep going back to them. It was a brilliant album. It's a shame that I think it got quite high ratings from a few people, but there was just enough not to get in. But I think they were one of the ones that got the closest. So no, it's a shame they didn't get through. But I also I could have put them through and decided to go with someone else. So yeah, there's swings and roundabouts there.
Well, what mine is the T-shirt. I'm going to pay homage to the Greta Van Fleet and Star Chaser. You all criminals, you all Philistines, particularly you, my brother. They're not a Led Zepp wannabes. They are amazing. So for me, Star Chaser and Greta Van Fleet. However, if I had a choice between them and Black Orchid Empire, I think I would have gone with Black Orchid Empire. That's how much I love Temple Veritas as an album. I mean, Will and Trish were dead to me when it comes to that album. But at least Trish has seen the light. At least she's seen the light. That's the most important thing from that side of things. Right. Well, so without further ado, let's get in to the top 20, shall we? Let's do the countdown from 20 to 16. And also I'll kind of mention maybe who kind of voted for what. In 20th position, our top 20 album, which was Lovebites and Judgement Day in 20th slot. which was my wild card in, because I felt that it was I wanted to put something a bit different in, and I think I owe it to them because they're here. We got over like 1,000 views because of Lovebites, so I kind of feel like whatever. But it still scored quite highly, 4.4, and I just thought it was something a bit different. It was pretty much thrash metal, which I really like. But the only two people put them in their top 10, which was Will, you had them in 7th place, and Simon, you had them in 8th place. It's just like, it's a cracking album, really. But I think it was very, very specific in terms of genre, in terms of maybe not peeling across the board, but still scored well. It didn't score badly. It's all very, very close. In 19th place, and another disappointment to Will and Simon, was Angus McSix and the Sword of Power.
Best Parnell album there was this year, honestly.
I know, right? Will, you had Angus in your 5th place, so you'll get to have a little homage. And Simon, you had him in 6th place in your top 10. However, somebody also had them in a top 10, which was a little bit of a surprise. You'd think it might be Bangers and Mash Day, but it wasn't. It was Ian. Ian actually had him in his top 10 on that score. So, but again, very much specific, very, very, very much out and out power metal, rather than kind of maybe that generalistic appeal on it as well. Oh, the next one is going to be very disappointing for somebody. The next album in 18th place was Winterage and their album Nekyia. Oh, Trish, this was your top album. This was your number one. She's all gone. This was your number one album. The only other person in the top 10 was Ian. He had them in 5th place. Trish, why Winterage as your number one album? And I know you must be quite disappointed for to have them quite low down.
Just this album, I just loved it so much. There were so many goosebump moments on it, which will lead into another question that I know that you're going to ask. Yeah, it was just it was a battle between two for first place, and yeah, that was my choice.
Oh, and I expected for Winterage to be in my top 10. I coming into this, my expectations were that Winterage would definitely be because it was operatic metal, it was very different. And again, we're talking about a very maybe specific album type of stuff in there. But actually, when I matched it up to let's be brutally honest about it. There's so much. This top 20 is ridiculoly good. And there's albums that got into a Hall of Fame that could have been, but might have even upset or got higher scores than these ones. So I was a little bit surprised personally myself. I think it was just outside my top 10, but it's a cracking album. And you're right, there's some goosebump moments in there as well. In 17th place is KickHunter and their album Now or Never. Simon's a little smile on Simon's face there. Oddly, Dave had this in 4th place and Trish had this in 8th place. But Chris, you had this in your top 5. This was your top 5 album, and was an album that you hadn't previously listened to. So, how would you describe KickHunter? How did that appeal to you? You're on mute, Chris. Schoolboy error, mate.
I've got to do it at least once in every show, otherwise I wouldn't be me. Yeah. It's just, I honestly, to put a finger on it specifically, I don't know. I wasn't expecting to like KickHunter in the way that I was expecting to. It was just, whether it was just the right time while I was listening to a lot of music all at the same time, but no, it was just, I couldn't think of. There is a song in there that I would have said, that's in the wrong place. That doesn't work right here. That is the wrong pace, the wrong time, the wrong in the album. It was just really well put together, really well produced, and really well thought out. So yeah, it was just a brilliant album. I thought there were better ones.
Yeah, it's a bit different, wasn't it? It was pure and utter, unadulterated rock and roll, and I think that's what stood out for him. But Simon, you kind of mentioned that you were a bit shocked that it even got into our top 20. So you were not a fan.
Oh no, absolutely not. No, but no, other people enjoyed it, and that's what we're here about. It's a journey.
Absolutely, but you'll go try a bit of controversy, haven't we, from that side of things as well? Okay, in 16th place is a newcomer whose debut albums did really, really well, and that is Seliena Telli and her album Addicted to Colour. Quite a few of you actually had this in your top 10. Chris, you had it. You and Trish both had it at your number 6 album. Paul and Dave. Paul, this is your first mention, Paul, of a top 10, and Seliena, got in as your number 9. But Chris and Trish, your number 6. Enjoyed the album, obviously, from that perspective.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously we saw her support Visions of Atlantis. So
we did. And I'm not sure. I she didn't quite get into my top 10 because I think there was some raw bits to this album. I think there's definitely a huge amount of promise to it, but I wouldn't say as an album it was overall polished. But Paul, you enjoyed this. This crept into your top 10.
Yeah, she was different. So. And it was like, I voted for KickHunter as well. It was different to everything. It wasn't in my top 10, no, but it was in my top 15.
It was in your top 15. Yeah,
it was in my top 15.
Top 10 counts though. Top 10 really counts. Okay, so that's our first 5. Well, this question is out of all. And we're just, that's an opportune moment because we're getting Ian is arriving. As we speak, we are joined by Ian, so we'll let him kind of join in a minute, and he can just join in when he hears. So, out of all the artist albums that we have listened to, the next question is what maybe has surprised you the most? Paul, let's start with you on this one then. So, out of all the albums, what have you listened to? What surprised you the most?
Of the ones that were on my stage, or overall, or the ones that weren't on the stage?
The albums that you've listened to.
That's a difficult one, I suppose. So we've had a number of bands that have that Led Zepp influence. Regretta, Van Fleet, Dark Bite, but the one that for me kind of had that feel but had more of a raw emotion to it was The Answer. That's the one that surprised me the most. I didn't think I was going to like it. I thought, here we go, another Led Zepp power band sort of feel to it, but no, I really enjoyed it.
William, what about you, William? What surprised you the most this year in terms of the bands that we listened to?
Well, the surprising thing for me was how much I'm not sure I like power metal anymore. It's like it's part of the reason why I put Angus McSix so high, because it wasn't the same as everything else. I really listened to obviously everything we had on there, and the more I listened, the more just all the symphonic generic power metal albums just sounded the same to me. Like there was nothing really that sort of pulled apart from that. A fun little album that didn't take itself seriously. It had fun, but the rest of it's just like, I'm going to try to do a super serious fancy thing. For me, power metal works best when it doesn't take itself seriously, and just every band we've had it takes itself too seriously. It's probably the reason why Dragon Force are like the biggest power metal band in the world, because they don't take anything seriously. But I'm not sure. I don't know if I like power metal anymore. It's it's all very generic now, and there's nothing individualist about it.
Yeah. Okay.
And if I want to add to that, to be fair, there was no Sabaton and there was no Civil War this year albums,
no,
which
exactly.
would, it was nothing of that quality. So
yeah, no, that's a very good point actually. Simon, how about you? What album surprised you the most this year?
I think I was actually the most surprised by Wargasm.
All right, okay.
I wasn't expecting to like that from the outset, because it is more of the punky style and stuff, and like, yeah, I thoroughly loved it. It was an amazing album. I can't wait to see them next year. Like, yeah, it's just really good. But like I said, completely surprised me to enjoy that sort of thing when normally I stick to the the power metals and symphonic metals and stuff. So yeah, good album.
Chris, how about you? What surprised you the most?
I found my mute button before I tried to start talking that time. So yeah, there's the one for me that it surprised me just how much I liked it was From Ashes to New, because I have some very specific new metal likes, and for the rest of it, new metal, rap metal, all that sort of stuff just doesn't really work for me. But From Ashes to New either just hit at just the right time or was just the right kind of combination for me to really like it. And just from the musical side, that was a big one for me, just From Ashes to New. But the other thing was that with listening to so much new music in a relatively short time, it's how much you have to be in the right mood to listen to certain types of music. So I like Slipknot. I like the kind of you quite heavy rock music from time to time. There's been some quite heavy bands and quite heavy albums that I would have expected to like, and at different times during the year I might have liked more than the ratings I actually gave them. You see what I mean? So I've always known that music can affect your mood, but it's also how mood can affect how you enjoy music as well. It's just a realization for me more than anything else. It sounds really basic and really straightforward, but I didn't realize just quite how much it would make a difference. But yeah, it's been, again, I suppose the third one is then just how much I've enjoyed doing the rock review shows with you guys, and also just listening to all the different types of music. It's been a lot of fun. So thank you for including me in it as well.
Pleasure. Trish, how about you? What surprised you the most? What album surprised you the most this year?
Well, I'm going to go with Simon on this one, and it was Wargasm, because it is, on paper, it's everything I hate about music. It's screamo, it's loud, it's punk, it's blah, blah, blah. I absolutely loved it. It really surprised me. Some of it, I think maybe because there was some tracks that reminded me a bit of The Prodigy, who I love, and a bit of dance. And at times her vocals reminded me of Billie Eilish as well. So yeah, for me that was the real surprise, because it's everything I shouldn't like, but I loved it.
Okay. Ian, welcome to the show. What about you, Ian? What artists or albums have you listened to that surprised you the most? And you're on mute. You're on mute.
There we go. Lovely. Excellent. So apologies for being a little bit late.
Okay.
It's a nightmare connecting up. Have we asked any of the previous questions? Are there any other questions you've asked before? Or is this the first
well, we'll just
question?
we'll just start with this one now. We'll just go with what artist album have we listened to and what surprised you the most?
Okay. There's a link to another question that I wanted to make, but I don't
go
know
ahead and link it, mate, if you want. Well, the only other album we've listened to is or the other question was what album did you didn't get into the top 20 or Hall of Fame that you would like to have seen in there? So.
Super. Okay, brilliant. So surprise, I've got to be honest, was Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, that I didn't absolutely detest it. That really surprised me, that I actually liked quite a few tracks on the album. I didn't like the whole album, but I liked a lot of what I heard, and that really surprised me, because I am not a fan of Oasis. I'm not even a fan of the High Flying Birds stuff anyway, but that really shocked me that I had to admit I liked some of them. And that's what I love about this, is it takes perhaps what you know or what you think you know and twists it around. Like Chris was saying, I think timing, mood, it really does come into play, especially when I was re-listening to some of the albums I listened through during the year, and I'm like, did I really like this? Did I? Was this on our stage? And also, the other big surprise was, I love the Angus McSix album. Absolutely loved it. But the Glory Hammer album was like, just no. So there's a definite link between the two. A very strong link between the two. But no, I just did not like the Glory Hammer album at all. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'm similar to you, Ian. Actually, every time a big band comes on the scene, like really the big bands, they always we never do very well. But for me, the biggest surprise was Rolling Stones, and their album, because like I was expecting to like, it's probably they're in their 70s, probably gonna be naff. But actually, it was and it got into our Hall of Fame, and it was kind of nice to see a big band like Rolling Stones still actually capable of actually producing a really good album. And it was don't get me wrong, it wouldn't get my top 20, but it was a really good album, and it surprised me. It kind of surprised me the most from that perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a refresher to where we're at. We're now moving into our top 15, but for Ian's point of view, so he's aware. Just a quick rundown. In 20th place was Lovebites. In 19th place was Angus McSix. In 18th place was Winterage. Sorry, Ian, your top 5, but it was Trish's number 1 album, but your top 5. In 17th place, KickHunter, Now or Never, and in 16th, Seliena Telli, which was Addicted to Colour. Okay, so our top 15 albums then. In 15th place is Blackbriar. With a darker phony, and Dave had this in his second place. Will, you had this as your top 5 album, your 4th. Simon had this in 8th place. Will, as Dave is not here, you're going to champion Blackbriar in your top 5. And you were saying about power metal not being dead to you.
I wouldn't call this power metal, to be honest.
Would you not?
No, well, where's the fast guitar? Where's the super fast drums? It's power metal needs to be super fast and stuff like that. I don't know. I'd call Blackbriar, but
I would definitely put this as symphonic metal, maybe operatic metal.
I'd call it more like alternative goth rock metal, alternative stuff like that. It's not power metal at all. It's haunting. It's beautiful. Every single track of this transforms you into another world and like just pulls you in. Like, her voice is the best voice we've had from a female singer in this year for me. It's just everything about this album was just call out to me, and I couldn't stop listening to it when we had it the other month, and it is one of the most perfect albums I've listened to. It blew me away.
I've got to say, one of my favourite stories is both you and Dave laying on a bed with headphones on in the dark, holding hands, listening to her. Well, it was one of my favourite stories of the year. So
is that not how people listen to music?
I know, right?
Specifically with Dave in the bed as well.
And one of the nice things about this album was Dave. I mean, we were all shocked, weren't we, when Dave gives this a 5, and obviously he's put his second album, because and they talk about a journey about taken. We mentioned about Wargasm and Blackbriar is definitely an album that you would not have expected Dave to give a 5 or to put in his top 5 albums in a million years, but it's just what the journey's all about, isn't it? So from that way. Okay, in 14th place, and I think this is the first surprise in terms of maybe how low it's down. But in 14th place was Ravenage, and their album Blood Omen. Paul, you had this, quite a few of us had this in our top 10. Paul, it was in your top 5. Ian was in 6th. Dom had it in 7th. I had it in 9th. Chris had it in 10. So quite a few of us. And actually, I did have a fear that this would be a lot of people's kind of, they liked it, but without it being kind of up there. But Paul, your top 5. This is in your top 5. This is your 4th best album. What appealed then to you amongst everything else with Ravenage and Blood Omen? I expected this to be a little bit higher, but yeah.
Yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. But I've got to say, is when I reviewed all the albums this month again, I would say in the top 7 or 8 there was very little, apart from from my very top one, it was ahead. Everything else, it went up and down as I listened to them. So yeah, I could have given them more marks, but when I'm looking at who I put above them, I don't think I could. That for me, that's how far they climbed up. They couldn't climb up any higher. But I just enjoyed the album. Basically, I hadn't listened to them prior in the year, so of all the bands that I listened that were from the other stages, they're the ones that stood out for me. So.
Yeah, no, it's a cracking album. In 13th place, and I have to say, again, is another surprise, because when I first listened to the album, first of all, I didn't think it was going to get into our Hall of Fame, let alone into our top 20, and let alone into 13th place. And we mentioned it, and so it has been a surprise, which is Wargasm UK and their album Venom. Dom had this as his number 1 album. Will had it as his number 2 album. And Simon in your top 5. It was in your top 5 album. But I would say that Trish and Chris wasn't in your top 10, but you did give it points. But quite a few of us just wasn't our cup of tea and didn't get any points whatsoever. So, Will, your number 2 album, William. Really? Why?
Does it surprise anyone, to be honest?
No,
you know, obnoxious, angry, heavy vocals, heavy backing music, awesome electronic, you know, sounds like everything about this album just screams me, and it's fantastic. Like, I immediately, back there's a, just as soon as we finished listening to it, I bought the vinyl t-shirt of it as well, bundle, so I've got a fun little signed album artwork there as well. Pick it up. Like, this album was fantastic. I still can't describe what it is or what genre was or what sound it was. It was just heaven to me.
And it wasn't a band. Was it a band you'd heard of previously before I brought them to your attention?
Not that I know of.
No. Fantastic.
So it's all about the journey.
All about the journey. The journey. Simon, it was in your top 5 as well, my friend. Was it close to getting it further up that list?
Yeah. I mean, as Chris has mentioned earlier, like there's definitely like times where you have different kinds of music that you like depending on your mood and stuff. I really love Wargasm and stuff, but there are just times where you just, you know, you don't want to listen to quite such angry stuff. Probably when you're driving.
Cool. Okay.
It focuses you, Simon. It brings you focus. You don't get angry at the cards because you get angry at the music.
Right. Well, moving on. In 12th place is From Ashes to New and their album Blackout. Wow. For me, Chris had this as his number 2 album. Will as his number 3rd album. So Will, your runners and riders have fallen under. Dave, everybody, Bangers and Mash. Dave had this as his 5th album, and Simon, you had this in your top 10. This was your number 7th album. Chris, we've only started to kind of discover your sort of genre of music, and I was mildly surprised, but not completely, because obviously I don't know you well enough in terms of this style. I've known you very well, but not in terms of what hits your sweet spot. But this obviously hit your your sweet spot, my friend. You're on mute again! Just leave it off mute, mate. Just leave it off.
Well, you don't know what noise is going on in the background.
Well, I'll edit it out. It's fine. Yeah. I'll edit it out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's another one of those odd ones where I don't know. I couldn't specifically tell you why I enjoyed it so much. It might have just been the time I was listening to it. It might have been, you know, just the way that it all fit together. But it just meant that as I was listening to it, it's one of those ones where sometimes when I listen to music, I want it to fade into the background. It's effectively an accompaniment to whatever I'm doing at the time. And as I mentioned in a couple of the review shows that we've done, when listening to From Ashes to New, it was on in the background and it dragged me into listening to the music over what I was doing at the time. So I would stop whether it was a game I was playing or if it was work I was doing, holidays to all the people I work with, I would stop in order to keep listening to the music. And it would go back on again and again. And it just, at the time I was listening to it, it just hit all the right spots, and I was going back over it again and again, and I had to actually stop doing that to finish off the rest of the review. So it was just I can't put a finger on it. I think if you'd asked me, when I hadn't probably heard of, do you want to listen to this, I would probably say it's all right. But the more I listen to it, the more I like it, and I hate the phrase, but it just grew on me so much over the course of listening to it and going over the reviews that it was just really good.
Will, your top 5 is slowly getting knocked off you, but this was your third. So again, another one in your top 5. Then, what was special about this album for you?
I mean, no, my top 5. I'm not surprised it's all being weaned out, because it's very different to most of everyone else's.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, one of my favourite albums growing up was Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park. Shockingly, And so new metal is a genre I've always loved, and it's like if that music was it's that music being made now. Basically, it's sort of like a modern new metal, new rap rock being done now. I guess I first started following them like midway through last year, 2022, good year for music, and since then I've not been able to stop addictively following every new thing they put out. They're just such a special, cool band, and new metal, rap rock, whatever you want to call it, it's a genre that I think needs more stuff because it's really, really cool.
Good. Right, okay. 11th place. That hasn't quite made our 10. And based on our Hall of Fame, based on our rating, based on what we said at the beginning of the show to the hot favourite, this is the first major shock that I'm about to reveal, because in 11th place is Phantom Elite and their album Blue Blood, that didn't quite make the tape. Trish, you had it in your top 5, you had it in 4th, Will had it in 6th, Dom had it in 8th, Ian had it in 9th, and myself and Simon had it in 10th place. So a lot of people had it in their top 10, but didn't really push it high, apart from you, Trish, then. And I've got to say, I'm actually a little bit surprised, because it's quite a lot. There's a bit of screamo on the edge to call it symphonic rock, whatever. They had a kind of mixture. So why then did this get into your top 5, Trish?
Oh, I just love this album. It's just, I don't know. There's just something magic about it. It just hit all the right spots. Each song was different. It wasn't samey. I mean, Birdcage, what a song.
It was a great song.
What a song.
Yeah.
You know, that is another goosebump moment. And, you know, if a song can reach out and do that to you, then it's got to be in the top 10.
Well, overall, it didn't quite make it. And so one of the elite late female singers is out of our top albums of the year, leaving the 3 hot favourites potentially. Or will it be a surprise? We'll have to wait and see. So that was our 22-11. Let's have a little mini break now. Let's talk about, because some of the, obviously, what was our song of the year? And it doesn't have to be in these albums. It could be any song that you've kind of listened to over the year. That one, Chris. What was your song of the year, my friend?
So I have to confess, this is a bit of an odd one. Now, it does come off the album I chose as number 1, but I didn't expect to like or listen to this song quite as much as I have done. And it's Fall Out Boy, We Didn't Start the Fire, which is a bonus track from the very end of the album. It really took me by surprise, because I, all due respect to Billy Joel, didn't like the original, but it's just the way it's grabbed everything that's happened in the last few years, put it to music, and just become a song that both, it both uplifts and also kind of makes you reflect on the stuff that's happened. And it was just, again, the right song at the right time, the right mood that I was in, just to keep listening to that. The one that came very close second, though, one I've been listening to quite a lot recently, and I've gone back to listening to Disturbed as well. There was a song called Bad Man that they did on the album that came out in November last year, so almost but not quite made it this year. I've been listening to that quite a lot, and also a song from earlier back in their catalogue called The Light, which
so
is just,
what was the name of the band and the song again?
So Disturbed.
Yes.
And the song is Bad Man.
Yes.
Which was the second off the Divisive album from last year.
And we did review the Disturbed album, and I was the only one that actually quite liked that album. Everybody is still, and I think it was too fresh after the whatever. Ian,
you need to bring me in sooner.
You'll be quiet for a while, so I come to you. But that's a positive thing, Ian, because none of your songs, other than Winterage, which you had in 5th, none of your albums that we've come across have been in the top 5. So you've got a very busy top 10 as of me and Paul. What was your song of the year, Ian?
My song of the year was Pay Nigel £10,000 and you get all of your songs in the top 10. It was my favourite song.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll take that 10 grand any time, not a problem.
The reason I was asking about the question earlier was because my favourite song of the year was also was from Winterage. From Winterage. Winterage was a huge surprise for me, and I didn't mention it then because I wanted to mention it as the song. And La Fonte de Descenza was just operatic, rock, drama, everything. I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it just ticked all of my boxes. It actually means Essenza cast iron. Quite not what Essenza is. I don't know. Does anyone know what Essenza is? But La Fonte is cast iron. So there we go. Make of that what you will. But it's just transcends. Absolutely sends you away. If I want to lift up, that is there for me to play, and boy, does that give you a lift. That whole album was really good as well.
Oh, it was a great album. It was surprised it was an 18th, but anyway, Trish, how about you? What was your song of the year?
Well, exactly the same as Ian. Winterage, La Fonte Descenza. Goosebump moment. Oh God, makes the hairs on your arm go up. It's just an amazing combination of operatic, the music, sheer brilliance.
Let's go for the complete opposite now. Will, what about you? What was your song of the year?
The title alone is going to prove how different it is. I have two songs of the year, but according to my Spotify Wrapped, there can only be one top one first. So my top one is "Watch the World Burn" by Falling in Reverse, which came out on the 31st of January. I listened to it first on the 1st of February, and on Spotify alone, listened to it just under 200 times this year. This song was perfection. It transcended all concept of genre. It absolutely blew my mind, and I still had goosebumps when I first heard it. It starts off as like modern rap song. It goes full on fast and Eminem rapping to brutal metalcore screaming breakdowns, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And a close second.
Amazing. I agree with you.
It is. It is.
That was almost there for me.
I cannot describe how amazing it is, but it does so many things to it. It's beautiful. A close second for me is a "Scoring the End of the World" by Motionless in White, featuring Mick Gordon of Doom soundtrack fame. Shockingly, he's awesome. Which again is just metalcore perfection. I adore that as well. Couldn't get more different than a song called "Watch the World Burn," can you?
Absolutely not. No. Simon, how about you? What was your song?
I've got two that are very, very close, but because my top song of the year, again according to Spotify Wrapped, is "Carnage" by The Browning, which is a very, very heavy song. Again, there's a bit of rap and stuff in there, but it's just from the opening hook, right from the opening beats. They're so catchy. I love it. I mean, it's super screamy. You'd hate it, Nige, but
I would.
You would. But I do recommend having listened to it. I absolutely adore that song. I played it so much last year. Other than this, in terms of favourite songs from albums that if you listen to, though, is probably "Abandon Us" by Bury Tomorrow. That is a really good track. I love that track. Again, it's just got a really good hook to it in the chorus. So, yeah, those are my songs of the year.
Paul, last but not last, because me to go as well. But what about you? What was your song of the year?
Well, it was a dilemma for me because, believe it, the last 20 minutes before the show, I was still listening to the three that I was trying to decide which was to happen. So the first one was Bogus Operandi by The Hives, mainly because there's an opening track. I know what is coming, and it just sets the scene sort of it. So if it comes on in the car and what have you, I know I'm going to have a great time. Then it was The Answer, Always Right, which is it took me a while because it starts off like a slow ballad, but builds and builds and builds. But it's actually a love song about his partner being always right there for him. Doesn't matter what he does, she puts him right and stuff. But the other one then, which is probably the song that, like Will, I've not not the same song as Will's, but I've listened to mostly, is Elysion's Raid the Universe, where she'll take a group of spaceships and literally burn the universe down to get her partner back. And it's such a dramatic, powerful song. So, yeah, if I had to choose at the very last minute, at the very last second, I'd probably go with Elysion's Raid the Universe.
Yeah, Paul, that was one of my 8 that I narrowed it down to. Raid the Universe was definitely in there, and a lot of albums were there. I suppose I'm going to mention the 3 albums that didn't. The 3. I'm going to go for the 3 that from albums that didn't make it. Meet the Master by Greta Van Fleet, which is just and live it was just amazing. Dark Side by Rival Sons, and I've seen that live as well, and that for me is probably one of the most haunting songs that I've listened to all year. But for me, for a special mention, I'm going to right a wrong here, and I'm going to pick Last Ronin by Black Orchid Empire, because it for me it just encapsulates what that whole album about. It's haunting, it's majestic, it's just a bit of everything. It's a little bit different. So Last Ronin from Black Orchid Empire, but yeah, Raid the Universe as well is an absolute cracker. So and Winterage is it was a goosebump moment as well. Okay, Paul,
No,
now we get to the exciting bits.
No.
Top 10. Yes, sorry, Ian.
No. Sorry. Do you mind if I just mention the albums that I was a bit gutted didn't
Yeah,
make?
go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, what album what album, I should say, that didn't that what you would like to see get in there? Not albums. One. You get one, mate. You get one. Okay.
So tight between 2. So I'll pick Candlebox, The Long Goodbye.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed that. But I think what I really liked about it was I think from memory the one that divided the group the most, that album, and I think that really typifies. And we've been talking about Wargasm,
Yeah.
and it's everything I don't love, where people are saying it's everything I do love, and that's the division I love about this. Is that everyone's different, but
Yeah.
in the end, everyone's the same.
Yeah.
That's it. So yeah, Candlebox, The Long Goodbye.
Yeah, I agree with Paul. Like the Hives, I absolutely adored that album as well. So I'm with you 100%. Okay, top 10, everybody. Top 10. Let's go. So in 10th place is Colony House and their album Cannonballers. Paul, you had this as your 3rd album, and myself, Dave, and Dom had it at number 6, and Chris had it at number 8. Paul, well, this must be your first. Well, yeah, no, you had Raven Age in your top 5 as well, didn't you? But number 3, Paul, what was so special about this album? What was so special about it for you?
Well, anything as the title Cannonballers is always going to be a blast, and it was just rolling fun, really. So, and I think of all the albums that we've got of this year, it was the most fun album by far.
Yeah, it was a cracker, wasn't it? Almost got into my top 5. I mean, for me, there was 6 albums in total that I was vying for the top spots, and this for me was one of the better. I call it indie rock. I don't know what you could term it, but it was a bit country, a bit indie. I just absolutely loved it. I thought it was terrific as well. So, okay, in 9th spot is a band that we really like. What's wrong there, Trish? You're a bit apprehensive here, are we?
I'm excited.
Excited. Okay. Excellent.
You laugh at me, I don't care.
No, I'd laugh because I love you. I mean,
Mr. Paul Matthews is laughing his head off at me.
In 9th place is White Raven Down and Don't Shoot the Messenger. Trish, you had this as your 3rd album. Paul, you had this as your 4th album. Dom had it as his 5th album, and I had it as my 7th album. So, Trish, now, Don't Shoot the Messenger, obviously, that was one of the albums that was actually came out in 2022, but we didn't review it until 23. So it was an album that might not have been released, but we did review it in 23. But this was in your top. This was your third top album, Trish. Why? And I know you've become really good friends with the band. But why? What was so special about Don't Shoot the Messenger?
I mean, obviously, we all know that, you know, my heart lies more with 80s rock. And, you know, on this journey,
What a shock.
Shocker, right?
Yeah.
You know, we've been opened up to lots of different genres of music, and this is quite, you know, it's more of a darker rock, you know, like Black Orchid Empire and stuff like that. And yeah, I just loved every song on this album. I mean, my favourite is Roll of the Dice, which they know anyway. Yeah, I just listen to it over and over again. Don't get bored of it. You know, it's just great rock music.
Fantastic. Paul, also, I don't think did you review this album, or was this one of the albums that you heard for the first time and got into top 5?
No, I reviewed it.
You
It
did?
was, one of my reviews that the show that got me into a lot of trouble. Basically, they were the only ones I give a good review, and when I kind of didn't give good reviews to other people and met them live, it didn't go down very well. But no, as Trish has mentioned, it was a heady mix of prog rock and metal. And I really, really enjoyed it, and I think they've got a great future. So,
right. Well, nobody else in the top 5. Obviously, Dom did. They've always had a special place in my heart since we met them. They're a cracker. Got into most of my top 10 as well. So in 8th place was Electric Callboy and their album Tekkno in 8th spot, which I think is fantastic. Will and Simon both had it as their number 1 albums. Dom had it as his number 2 albums. But I will say that Paul and Chris actually wasn't in the top 10, but they did award it points. Will, Simon, let's go to you then. I know that when we talked at one point, they weren't necessarily going to get your top spot, because I knew you had you like all of us, apart from Will maybe, you had a bit of dilemma as to what your top album would be, but it did get your top slot. Why?
Yeah, I mean, it was between first and second place always, but it's just such a good damn album. It's just amazing. I mean, I've seen them live 4 times this year, and they had to go first place for that alone. You know, they're just so much fun, and I find myself always listening to it and all the different tracks, and like Arrow of Love and Mind Reader and stuff. It's just a fantastic album. It's so much fun. I love it.
Well, obviously, we all knew this was going to be your number 1 album. But did Wargasm push it close, or was it never in doubt?
Not even. They're not in the same tier as Electric Callboy. Wargasm are good, but they're Electric Callboy are on a whole nother level of just perfection. You know, Wargasm are an A tier. Electric Callboy are S+ tier. There's nothing rivaling them. I mean, it's. I've seen them 3 times this year. Obviously, one less than Simon. I'm virtually not going to download, but they're so much fun. This band just love what they're doing so much. I've never seen a band have so much fun on stage when they play live. Like, they have so much stage presence. Everything's fantastic. The album is perfection. And choo 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 choo. I am riding well and truly on the Tekkno train.
I got to ask Paul. I was surprised that you actually give this album points. Why? What did it? I'm really genuinely surprised that you give actually any points
it's got
to
taste.
this album.
well, obviously, I didn't review them. I wasn't on the same stage, so it was a complete surprise to me. But when obviously they were in our top 15 or top 20, wasn't it, albums? So I literally reviewed them all, and the thing was, there wasn't a band like them, and there's nothing there isn't an album like this. There's like disco music mixed with metal, and it was just like, what the hell is going on here? This is the first impression. But the more I listened to it, the more I enjoyed it. So, and it's a bit of a shame that I'd left it to the last month to listen to some of these albums, which probably isn't a fair review. And maybe if I'd listened to it from the moment that it came out on the stage to now, it may have even got a higher votes. I don't know, but so yeah. But that's the dilemma of the whole thing. You can't just listen to everything.
You could just listen to the ones that got into the Hall of Fame, because those are the ones.
I could have, but sometimes
it's hard. It's hard. It's a lot.
Yeah. And if you're on a stage and you listen to an album, you might continue listening to that album a good couple of weeks after because you enjoy it so much.
It didn't get any points off me, but I would if it was on, I would listen to it. It did bring a smile. Fuck boy, was just I made it under my playlist, for example. It's just there is some good fun elements of it. It just gets a bit annoying for me, I suppose, ultimately. Okay, in 7th place, we have is the Sundowners and their album Answer. Dave had this as his number 1 album. Bangers and Mash had this as his number 1 album. Paul, you had this as your number 2 album. Chris had it as his number 4 album, and Ian had it as his number 7 album. So a lot of people obviously really like this album. Paul, obviously Dave's not here, can't tell us why he loved it, but it was your number 2 album. Why? What was so special for you in terms of Sundowners then?
When I first listened to it, I didn't like it.
Really? Wow.
I didn't like it. His voice is very gritty, unique. It does have this Led Zepp feel to it, and I thought, oh, here we go again. But the more I've listened to it over the months, the stronger it has got. It's a very, very good album, and his voice is very unique as well, and he does use it as an instrument. So. But yeah, and there's some really great songs on it. As an overall album, yeah, it's up there.
Chris, then, wow. So this was an album you hadn't previously listened to, so that obviously you've got it quite high in your top 5.
Yeah, that's right. So it was there was a couple of songs in particular, so California Rust and No Salvation, that just really stood out for me as, again, drew me out of what I was doing to pay attention and listen to them. And yeah, it was. All of the stuff we listen to, especially there's a reason why it's all in the potential for album of the year. They are all good albums, and so it comes to a point where you just have to make these choices and make the cut. And they just made the cut more for me than others. They stood out that little bit more. They were just, whether it was because I liked them more than I was expecting to, or because it just drew me out to actually listen to them rather than what I was doing. It's meant that they definitely came into their own with this one. So yeah.
Wowzers. Yeah, no, cracking album. Okay, in 6th place, we're almost there, everybody. In 6th place, we have Soen and their album Memorial. This was my number 2 album. Ian and Dom had it as their number 4. We get to talk to Ian, which we haven't done much of. Paul is 7th, Trish is 9th, Dave had it in their top 10 then. I had it as 2nd place, so we'll start with me. I just there were 4 albums, and this was different to my other ones that got into my top 5. It just is brilliant, and there's a track on there called Hallowed with which he does a duet, and oh my god, some of the tracks in here, it's an album that for me I can just. It's similar to Black Orchid and Don't Shoot the Messenger. This is just a sublimely brilliant, not quite prog rock, but just a haunting kind of brilliant rock album that has just a bit of magic to it. And we talked about Blackbriar. This is an album that I could just go off to and just immerse myself into. It is utterly brilliant. The sound of it is it's my sweet spot. It's just fantastic album. Absolutely love it. The lyrics are deep, almost kind of power metal lyric, but not quite, but storytelling lyrics that are just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Ian, your top 5 then as well. Why did Soen make your top 5 in Memorial?
Well, I think, like you said, it really stand out. One of the biggest problems I had logging in was I really wanted to log in on my laptop because all my notes are on my phone. In the end, I've had to use my phone, so I can't access some of my notes while I'm on here. So I really want to be able to be specific about stuff, but
that's okay.
I can't pick up the exact songs. But Soen, the sound was just grabbed hold of me and ran through this. I believe I gave this a 5 in the week that we had it. It was a 4.5 or a 5, and it was just amazing. And for each of for the way I decided my top 15, because it wasn't easy at all. There was so much when you listen to it. I'm like, wow. There was some clear, real, I love these, and some clear, nah, not my thing at all. But in the middle, it was like so hard. So I gave 4 categories: vocals, feel good, production, and genre. Marks out of 10, because they're the things that really draw me to songs. And then there was this big meld in the middle that was all around 31, 32 they scored, and this got slightly more than that. And that just sat really comfortably in my top 5, well set apart from the general sort of stuff, which was really good level. It just had that extra edge that it's on my albums that I love. So from the review album, I'll put all the albums in there. The ones I love from it go on to albums I love. And that album's now got something like 1,200 songs on it.
Yeah.
And that pretty much predominantly from MPJ. There's a couple of albums have gone on that have been referred because I'm listening to songs on this album, which is another thing I love about doing this. So, Soen definitely. Songs like this, keep albums like this coming in, Nige, because I get even more.
Do my best. Right, okay. Well, that was our top 10. We're now coming into our top 5. Now, we talked about a battle of 4 women. Okay. However, with Marina La Tarocca out the running, surely though we have to note and declare there is a new force here. There is a new force to be reckoned with, and a name not yet mentioned, but in our top 5, which is Margarita Monet from Edge of Paradise, which was a wild card, which has obviously got into our top 5. So there is a battle of 4 women, but it does not include Marina, but it now includes Margarita Monet and Edge of Paradise. So our top 5 then. Will Fall Out Boy manage to just really upset the apple cart here and break up this battle of these female lead singers? The answer to that question is no, because in 5th place is Fall Out Boy and So Much for Stardust. Chris had it as his number 1 album. Dave had it as his number 3 album. I had it as my 5th. Paul had it as his 6th. Will had it as his 9th album. In fact, everybody give this points apart from one person, which was Trish. Trish was the only person that did not give this any points. Now, Chris, you little rat bag, you give the game away. You mentioned earlier on because you pick a song off this one. This was your number 1 album. Why?
So I have listened to Fall Out Boy since they formed, and the last couple of albums have not been stellar. There's been some good songs off each of the albums, but they haven't been a complete package in the same way that things like Under the Cork Tree were. This one, the new one, So Much for Stardust, kind of brings them back. They are firmly back in my list of favourite bands. As we've already alluded to, the song I've listened to, one of the songs I've listened to most, certainly in the last 3-4 months, is We Didn't Start the Fire, which it's been a job and all that. He is where he is. But it was a very, very, very good album, and it just reawakened my love for Fall Out Boy. And I'm going back and listening to their some of the stuff that I didn't like before. And again, the time period when that stuff came out possibly meant that I didn't like it as much as I could have done, because I am reawakening my love for what they did at that point as well. So yeah, it's just brought them back to me, really. It's brought me back to them, I suppose, as much as anything else, because they've been doing the same stuff they've been doing for years. But no, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It just kind of hit the right spot at the right time, and yeah, I'm firmly back with Fall Out Boy now. So there you go.
Yeah, it also made my my top 5 as well, and I genuinely there. When you look at your top 5, when you look at an album, it's got to have lots of really good hit songs in there, good songs that the whole album's really good, and things like "Hold Me Like a Grudge," "Fake Out." But what I liked about this album was that there was emotion in this album. There was a story, and the Pink Seashell story was just like got me. I mean, you could almost choke up, and and in its simple lyrics highlights the way of the world. That his dad, who's dying, said everything you'll need to know is in the seashell, and it was empty. It was nothing. And actually, the whole moral that thing was actually enjoy life for the here and now. Whether it's a cheeseburger, whether it's whatever, enjoy life for what it is here and now. And I think that Fall Out Boy went, you know what, we're not going to reinvent ourselves. We're just going to go back and do what we do and do it really, really well. And it is an exceptionally good album, exceptionally good from that one. And actually, I think, if you ever want to hear an album of a band in a particular genre mastering their craft, this was that album, that without any shadow of a doubt whatsoever. Absolutely brilliant album, brilliant. I really, really, and for me, I'd say top 5 is really, 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 really hard. Okay, so the top 4, I'm gonna throw a curveball at you here, and a question that you weren't going to expect. Always expect the unexpected, but the top 4 albums all have female lead singers this year, which for me personally has been a standout. But I'd like to understand, maybe from your perspective, why that is. Simon, why do you think, though, that for us as a group, the lead, the albums that we've enjoyed have been dominated by a female lead singer? What is happening to the male singer genre out there, and why do you think currently, right now, the female lead singer's in ascendance?
Because you hate screamo. No.
Well, I mean, yes, I do, but I mean,
yeah. I don't know. We just seem to. I know in particular, me and Will have a particular liking for female-fronted bands. Some of our absolute all-time favourite bands are typically female-fronted, but I think it just shows there's a good diversification in the types of metal and types of music we listen to. Yeah, baby male. Yeah, I'm not really sure otherwise, though. But I think, I'm glad that it is, though. It's good to have a mix.
Will, what about you?
Put it bluntly, the female-fronted power metal bands are more interesting than the generic male-fronted power metal bands. So, arguably, artificially, they've been raised up higher because there's something different to the tact that is most modern generic power metal. It's just something different from it, isn't it?
Do you think it's because of the range of the vocality? That for me, that really kind of stands out.
Male power metal sing. Well, most male power metal singers have the same kind of vocal range. It's just all it is. They are just. I think it's just something different from all the rest of the power metal, which is also like, when you look at my scores, the female front ones are all sort of at the bottom still, because it's like, yeah, it's just it does all blur into the same still, but it's something different to the rest of the power metal.
Yeah,
but it's just nice. Like Future Palace, they're good, but they're a bit too angry.
Okay, Trish, how about let's take a female perspective then, Trish, because not all of these people would have got into your top 5. You've edged towards more the male vocalist side of things.
I think I've mixed it up sort of fairly evenly, but like Beyond the Black, Phantom Elysion, Edge of Paradise, their vocals and range are amazing. Some of the notes that they can hit, but they're all very different singers in their own way and what they bring to each of their respective bands. There's nothing else more I can really say. I'm not an aficionado.
I'm sure Ian will more than make up for that. Ian, what about your perspective in terms of the female singer genre right now and how it's dominated our top albums?
Yeah, I like that. Sorry. I mean, I've got to mention it. My favourite musical is Six, and that is all women, and it's all about the power of women. And I think the best way to describe in terms of rock is Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven is a phenomenal song vocally, musically as well, but vocally I really, really love it. Lyrically, not vocally, sorry. Lyrically, it's brilliant, really good. But Led Zeppelin sing it, and they sing it well, but have you heard Heart's cover of it at the tribute concert thing? Just look up Heart's tribute to Led Zeppelin when they sing Stairway to Heaven. Now, Heart had the big 80s hit Alone. How do I get... Yeah. Absolutely. And they, oh my God, the sound that comes from them when they do it is it's just, for me, far superior. And I think partly it's to do with hertz. So the notes we hear have various hertz to it, and that registers in us in different ways. The decibels as well. If you get the same note being sung at a higher decibel through, say, a male shouty, whether it's whatever the range, the male voice tends to be more forceful. The female voice can tend normally to be quite a lower decibel. And that is a sweet. The other thing is you've got real hard instruments. You've got the bass, you've got the guitar, you've got the drums. These are all hard. And the female voice tends to be a sweet sort of serenity through that. And I didn't think I was going to get a chance to mention it, but I got a legitimate way of bringing Battle Beast into, especially with Nora's vocals. Wow, I mean,
yeah,
live,
but they're not in this year. They're not in this year. No. They might be back in next year, and you can lord them over then. So yeah.
Well, if I get a chance, I'm going to mention Battle Beast and Six wherever I can.
Yeah.
But it's purely because her voice, I mean, it's as good live as it is recording, and that is echoed in more than one of these bands here. I'm not going to say which ones because that will give away some things. But it was amazing. And on the female singer, it's Seliena is the other vocalist way down, not Marina, it's Seliena. But yeah, that'll be the technical side.
Sorry, no, it's Marina. You mean for Phantom Elite?
No, sorry, I thought you were talking about Serena Telli earlier.
No. We're talking about. So talking about serenity and dulcet tones, Chris. Then, any thoughts on that subject?
Yes, I think Ian's kind of gone with similar to what I was going to say about it. I think the difference becomes, and Will was quite right, you can get male vocalists who can hit the same notes, but it's the comfort zone of the singer when they're in at that point and where they're singing. So you can get female singers will be able to be more powerful at that range, at that frequency, at that tone than males, potentially, depending on what their what their vocal cords can do and how they sing normally. And so I think there is just the different comfort levels then mean that when you are listening to the music, you get more of the emotion, more of the feeling behind what they're trying to say and how they're pairing it with the lyrics. So I think, as Ian's saying, Stairway to Heaven, female vocalists who sing that, they are more in their comfort range at the point that they're singing that, and you get more emotion through from them that way. And so I think that might be some of what it means that then we are hearing more. We are hearing it more and we're understanding more. I think the other thing as well is just that, also as Will said, most of the rock bands at the moment still have male singers, and so a female fronted band sounds different, feels different, is different, and therefore we're just getting more of them coming through, and all power to it happening, because the balance, if we ever hit it, would be great. But it's just a case of it is still quite novel to have big rock band and big rock sound with a female vocalist at the front. The downside to that is at the moment you're getting a lot of people that are saying things like, oh, they're trying to be the new Nightwish or new Evanescence or anything like that. No, they are female singers fronting a rock band doing their own thing. Some of them might be using them as influences, but you've got to take people on their own merit for that sort of thing. And I'm as guilty of that when we talk about Seliena, Telli earlier in the year, when I was saying that that it reminds me of Lizzie Hale at the front of Hailstorm. Again, Hailstorm, another great band that are not in this year, so I'll stop talking about it now. But it's just, again, you will always draw those comparisons, but it's just something new, something interesting, and it's great to see it having the impact that it is. So all good.
Paul, what do you think?
It's just the way the voting's gone. Literally, I'm thinking, what's Nigel on about? He's making a meal out of this, because I'm looking at my top 6, and only one of them is a female singer. The rest, The Answer's female, The Answer's male, Conley House is male, White Raven Down is male, Fall Out Boy is male. What are you on about? It's just the way the voting has gone. It's simple as that, really. I don't think it's. Yeah.
Well, I think that's from your personal preference, but overall as a group, we have a punch towards it, and I think that see, for me, it isn't just about, and I think we're not giving credit to the actual bands and the people behind here, because for me it's also about the musicality and the originality and the score and how the bands have actually composed the music. And we talk to a lot of bands, and they always do the music first, and I don't know whether rather than the lyrics and stuff as well. So I think I think these particular albums are quite strong because of actually the variation in the tempo and the music and so forth as well. It's not just about the vocals, and I think a lot of these bands have been around for quite some time and have actually mastered their craft. I think Elysion, for example, I think that they've been, this about their 4th album. Within Temptation have been around along, and I also think it's a combination of these bands, not just Elysion, but these bands actually mastering their craft and getting the most out of those lead vocals with both the musicality. So, but yeah.
I just got to add though, Nige, this year the female artists have been absolutely stellar.
Oh, brilliant!
It's not as we tend to gravitate towards female singers or whatever. They have been absolutely outstanding.
Oh, God, I agree. But then my number 2 was Soen, which is not, and I think I did that just to break it up a little bit as well. So, but yeah, okay. So our top 4 then. Our top 4. In 4th place is Edge of Paradise and their album Hologram. It was his number 1 album. Simon, his number 4 album. Trish, Chris and Dave, number 7th album. My number 8, Paul, number 9. And Will and Dom also just outside the top 10. It was in their 11th place. Everybody gave points to this album, and the lowest place was in 11th place. So it was a wild card. I think it was Trish's wild card. So because Paul stole White Raven Down from her, so she had a backup, which was this one as well. Ian, your number 1 album, my friend. It must be slightly disappointed, but it didn't get in the top 3. But still, for a wild card, why was this your number 1 album, my friend?
I'm not surprised it's not number 1, even though I've given it 5 points essentially. That happens so often. I'll come along with 5 points, and other people give it 2 or 3. It's just the way we all listen to music. I thought this. I was very deliberate about only having one of my scores about vocals, because then it pulled away from the fact that I naturally like female vocals. So I thought that balanced out what I was listening to. The storytelling. If you want some, it was all about the power rock, which I've fallen in love with from listening to this. Absolutely fallen in love with. Definitely the opposite to Will there, and in terms of I've drawn more to it, and this just the arrangement. Was it slightly overproduced? Possibly. But I thought the production was fantastic on it. The arrangements were amazing, and those vocals, it's like the icing on a cake. The cake has to be really good for it to be enjoyable, but visually and really draw you in. It has to look good. It has to look like you want to eat it. And the vocals coming across, they sound good. It sounds like you want to sit down and listen to this album, really get into it. I just there was quite a lot of versatility. There was a fair amount of change in feel from track to track, whilst keeping a very consistent theme. And I thought it was very true to itself all the way through. And I just enjoy listening to this album. There is something when you're sitting at the back of a ship and you're watching the wake, and the ship is going through 4-meter waves, and you've got this belting in your ear, and the waves are crashing all around you. Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Simon, I've got to say, I was a little bit surprised that this crept into your top 5. What stood out for this for you then? Because it's very much not quite. Well, I mean, it is your genre, but why? I mean, against some of the others, why? What stood out for Margarita Monet for you, my friend?
Yeah, it's just a great album. All my top 5 are all very much there. I would have put most of them probably first or second, because I just had such a tough time deciding between them all anyway. So there's not much in it for me personally. I just really liked it. It's a really good album. It's got a good sound to it. It's just a very, very enjoyable. So yeah. My top 5 are all very much in the similar position with me. Of I just couldn't decide. It took me ages to figure this out. So yeah, good album.
Right, well, look, top 3. Some of us are going to be disappointed here. Some of us are going to be delighted. Who knows? There was, I mean, the third place was not far off the top 2 on that score. So, in third place is Elysion and Bring Out Your Dead. This was Paul's number 1 album, mine and Chris's 3rd album, Trish's 5th album, Ian and Dom's 8th album, Dave and Simon's 11th album, and the only person not to give points to this album, which was a surprise, we'll ask him why in a minute, was Will. Will was the only person that didn't particularly give this, just didn't give any points to Elysion. Paul! So close again with your number 1 album. Why Elysion? What stood out for you, my friend? Let's be honest, mate. Honestly, it could have been my number 1 as well. I mean, I really struggled particularly with my top 4. Why was it stand out for you?
Well, I think we listened to them very early in the year. And I've kept on listening to them. So even with all the new bands, all the new material and everything, it's the one. And there's no real standout track. I wouldn't say there's like one like standout track. As a whole album, this is a complete experience. So I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's going to be the same for me. Last year, I voted for Volbeat, and Volbeat I still listen to even now. I don't listen to Visions of Atlantis. It's not an album that ever comes back up on my playlist, I think. And it's the same for the runner-up and the winner of this competition. I won't listen to their albums again, but Elysion I will. So that is why Elysion is going to be top. And yeah, and just like other people that have got favourites, yeah, I feel a bit sick about it, but that's the way it goes.
At least he's honest. Listen, this was in my 3rd place, and it was a terrific album. Raid the Universe was. I can't remember the name of the song, but similar to Fall Out Boy, there's got to be sometimes lyrics, and I think there was a point where I think our old man's going to beat her up, or I mean, and it's just like there are some lyrics in this album that are just hard hitting as well, and make you feel emotive and make you feel emotion, and and her voice is just just absolutely phenomenal. It is a great album, and it's actually unlike even though this was not my winner, it's my top 5, and it is an album that I keep coming back to. As I said, there was 4 albums that were on my loop Anyway, Chris, so this wasn't an album that you would have listened to. It was your number 3. What stood out for you? What stood out for you on this one then?
So I think a couple of people mentioned it. When we get down to our top 5, it's very, very close between them all. This was the one that just sort of stood out for me and sort of grabbed me, pulled me into the story. I mean, the Buried Alive is a particular standout track from this one. Again, as Paul said, I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. It is just, as an album, it definitely had to be up there as one of the better ones for me this year. And yeah, this just happened. It's just from start to finish, it drags you in. Well, it didn't have to drag me that much, in fairness. I came quite willingly by the end of it. But yeah, it's a brilliant album, start to finish. And yeah, so again, it's as has been said, they are now in my list of people to listen to, and I will be coming back to it again and again. So yeah, really good.
Wow. Trish, your top 5. Very exciting.
Yeah. Very pleased. Like, for me, between them and Phantom Elite, it was really difficult to, it's just a tough job, trying
It's a tough job. It is a tough job.
Yeah. I'm really pleased. I mean, whoever, is in the winning place deserves it.
William, everybody give points, William. Everybody give points, but you did not give points to Elysion. And that I'm going to say I was surprised, because I would have said that this is, when you rated it as a 5 or right up there, you loved the album. It's similar to some of the top 2, but why not even in your top 15, William?
Well, I mean, the first thing to say is when you look at my top 5, it's obviously very different to that.
Yeah.
And upon re-listening to it, it just didn't do anything to me. It's like I said before, I was re-listening to the album, and there were so many of these albums that, to my hearing at the time at least, all sounded really similar. So I had to pick out the ones, to me, that sounded at least a bit more different. I feel like starting with my opinions were a lot more set in stone when I was doing my ranking, because I found it quite easy to do my all of my top 15. Like, the only thing I would have changed is my second and third place, possibly. I think that's just because I'd listened to Wargasm so much more recently than From Ashes to New, so it was new in my head. Like, if I'd listened to From Ashes to New last month for the first time, that'd probably be second, because it was so new to me. But it just, there wasn't enough there for me for it to be up there. Whereas the other, when you look at the power metal ones, they're all like mostly below 10th place.
Yeah,
for a lot of it.
Well,
it wasn't enough for me.
So, like, there was the top 2, which is Within Temptation and Beyond the Black. There was literally 1 point with them. Elysion was about 10 points behind. So for you to vote it, you had to be in your top 5 for it to have been alongside that. So listen, we are down top 2, and there literally was 1 point between. Last year, between Visions of Bob Beat, there was 2 points. This year, there is a point between the 2 winning albums. So Within Temptation, Sharon Den, lead singer of Sharon Den, Adele, and Beyond the Black with Jennifer Haben. Everybody give points. Everybody give points to both these albums. The lowest score was Dave with 2 points and Chris with 4. Now, I don't have to give it away because it was that close. So me telling you who put this in our top 5 would not have given it away. So Within Temptation was Ian and Simon was their second places. Dom was third. This was my 4th album, but I'm not going to mention. Literally, Dave was the only one Within Temptation that wasn't in the top 10. Beyond the Black, this was my number 1 album. This was Trish's 2nd album and Ian and Simon's 3rd album. Everybody else was in there. The lowest place was Chris, which was 12th. That's how close this is. That's how close that is. So we're going to start with let's start with Beyond the Black then. So this was my number 1 album, and it was a tough choice. For me, there are songs that entry, and there was a sound in their opening track which Paul summed up beautifully, which was like a bike horn, and that's haunted me all year. It just has resonated with me all year as an opening track. Probably for me the best opening track to an album. It was just brilliant, and there are tracks that are just equally brilliant throughout there. And then you topped it all with Do You Remember Dying, which was just, oh my god, I mean, what a phenomenal track that was. So for me, at the end of the day, between this and obviously with In Temptation, which was in my fourth place, etc. as well, it just had more hit tunes that I want to hear again and again and again and again. And a bit like Visions, for me, every single track I absolutely love on this album. But it was so close. I can't tell you how close it was. And I think it was those two tracks, the opening track and Do You Remember Dying, that just edged it for me as an overall kind of album. Trish, this was your second place though. So despite early disappointment, Trish, your second place is in the top two. Why? What did Beyond the Black say for you?
Gosh, just what an album! What an album! I mean, I was back and forth with this and Winterage to who was going to be first or second, and I think because of La Fonte de Senza, just picked Winterage to the number one place for me. But I mean, Wide Awake on Beyond the Black album. I mean, this album's got everything in it. Her voice is sublime. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but well done, whether it's first or second.
Yeah, you had Within Temptation as a 10th spot. Now, this is really interesting because Ian and Simon both rated Within Temptation second and both rated Beyond the Black in third. Simon, I mean, literally, you two are going to be quite pleased that your second and third choices are going to be 1 and 2. But what edged Within Temptation out for you over Beyond the Black, Simon?
It's because we were colluding with the scores, so we just wanted to. Within Temptation, there's two reasons, and one of them slightly controversial. But first of all, is the topics Within Temptation sing about. Is I think like with Bleed Out and the war and stuff. Like, I think they covered a lot of topics that a lot of bands won't touch, and for such a big profile band to talk about these sort of things was just fantastic, and with beautiful songs as well. Also, weirdly, I really liked the instrumental tracks in the end. I didn't think I would, but I genuinely really enjoyed them, and I think that actually tipped the album a little bit in my favour, just to be a bit higher than Beyond the Black. But yeah, I've also always liked Within Temptation for a long time, so I also have a lot of nostalgic love for them. So yeah.
Ian, how about you? What edged out Within Temptation over Beyond the Black? Because you had obviously Within Temptation second, Beyond the Black in third. What was there? Yeah. What stood out? Because we are talking literally, tiny things really.
Yeah, but talking the difference between 1, 2, and 3 here, or 2 and 3 specifically here. It's like going to such a macro. We are in the quantum realm here in terms of, if you look at the whole year, it's so fine. It's like cutting human hair into 10 pieces. It's that fine. Oh god, I both of them scored 38 on my scoring chart. So number one scored 39. And these two scored 38. They were the only ones that scored 38. And I'm like, I could not separate them. I couldn't. And in the end, I honestly, because I can't go into my notes, it was one of my factors that I decide. I think one of them must have had a higher score than the other, and I just went on that. But I can't remember which one it was. But they were. I couldn't tell you what separates them. There was something that tweaked it, but they were both just as good as each other. I don't want to actually say I want to say what separated them, because they're both the same. Just the fact we had to put one at 2 and one at 3. If we put both of them at 2 and the next one at 4, I would have done that. So yeah, third, second, third. Yeah, it's all the same to me on this one.
It is quite interesting because Will, you had Within Temptation 7th and Beyond the Black in 10th. They are similar kind of albums, but what Within Temptation edged it for you, obviously, in that respect.
Yep. I mean, right now I'm loving this because I have no horse in this race right now. This is fantastic for me. There's way less pressure than there was for me this time last year.
Yeah.
With the old Visions of Atlantis, which is my number one man. I do have some slight bias because I'm quite a big fan of Within Temptation anyway, and so have a lot more like to their music and their old music as well. So I feel like it was that bias towards already liking them a lot that pushed them ahead for me.
Yeah.
Whereas Beyond the Black, before this album I'd only ever heard one song of theirs, which I'm pretty sure they did a cover of a Sabaton song once, and so I'd heard that a few years ago when they first released that. But no, it's just, I don't know what it's about them. They're just, the sound they do is just more pleasant to me, and biased basically. It's biased.
Fair enough.
I like them more.
Yeah.
They're a cool band.
Paul, it was similar for you actually with Will. It was three places. I mean, you had Within Temptation 8th and Beyond the Black in 11th. And I know you've been gutted unless Jon hasn't nipped the crown again. But obviously you would prefer with Temptation to probably win this at this point. But yeah, because you had them slightly ahead of Beyond the Black, so it being in your top 10.
Yeah, but the lower, both of them are my lower half of my top 10. But yeah, I think it's something Simon pointed out within Temptation. Approached topical subjects that very little other bands of this genre would touch, and they did it very, very well. Whereas I think Beyond the Black is carried by the lead singer, who's got a stunning voice, used to sing for Disney and so forth. But I don't think it's the band and everything is a finished article, and that's where they need to move on. So, but like I said, I enjoyed one or two songs. I really, really enjoyed her voice, but as an overall thing, I don't think it's a finished article. The band is by far. As we're Within Temptation, I mean, for me, it was between Ravenage, Fall Out Boy, Soen, and Within Temptation. Any of those four bands could have been in any order, really, and it was a much more mature, solid affair, really.
And I think you're going to look at the kind of, so a lot of us are going to look at this and go like, oh, but if only. If whoever wins it, because there was only 1 point in it, you're going to go, oh, depending on how your biased is, if you just got, oh, if I put that a bit higher, but we do it in all honesty and so forth as well. So
yeah, sorry to disappoint you, Nigel. No, I wouldn't. I don't think that. I give the marks that I give, and yeah.
No, I agree. That's what
I
I'm
couldn't
saying.
torture myself any more about it.
You
so.
torture yourself. I mean, you would torture yourself. Okay. Well,
I think that
I think we've talked enough.
With 1 point separating, it's harsh to have one album of the year with 1 point separating after everything. It's got to be two albums of the year, surely.
What happens, Ian? Let me tell you how it logically works. If they were tied, there would be two albums of the year, but they weren't tied, and there was 1 point in it. Yeah. So you could say that whoever is second place was like obviously up there, but there is only one winner because there was only 1 point between the two of them, and the winner of the MPJ, look at Trish, that's exciting, isn't it? The winner of and our second album of the year that joins Visions of Atlantis, the winner of the MPJ Musical People's Award for Album of the Year for 2023 goes to Beyond the Black and Beyond the Black. So Jennifer Harben. So we have a German winner from that perspective. Obviously, I'm delighted. Second year running that my number one album has got there, and I haven't just done that one as well. So there we go. So Beyond the Black wins it. For me personally, Within Temptation have won it. It would have been equally brilliant. So I love both those albums from that perspective, but there can only be one winner, and it is Beyond the Black. Congratulations to Beyond the Black, to Jennifer and the team. Well done. Congratulations. Amazing album. Amazing. Thank you very much, guys. I just want to personally thank you guys, and to Dave and to Dom who aren't here today. But I just want to say thank you very, 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 very much to all of my panel for your dedication through the year. We listened to 151 albums last year.
Wow.
So, so anybody who's in our top 20 to say, you got to our top 20 is phenomenal. And thank you very much. Thank you to everybody that has graciously given us interviews. Long may it continue. We'll continue. We're delighted to announce that we will be back in 2024. We are already listening to for albums for January. So thank you very much. Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you very much for your time and dedication. William, thank you very much for your time and dedication. Trish, thank you very much for your support, your social media. You've been amazing. Ian, thank you very much. For your time and dedication. This guy here is a Chris. Chris, welcome. You've been amazing. I don't know why we haven't had you sooner, but we are welcoming you into our bosoms for that one.
Yay.
Paul, thank you so much for your dedication, my brother. Thank you very much for all of your the background information that you collate for us. You are amazing, and your insights are fantastic. And again, thanks to Bangers and Mash Dave and to Thundercrack Dom Clark for not being here today. And
thank you, Nigel, for bringing all the albums to the table. Without you, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Thank you very much. So lots of that. Once again, congratulations to Beyond the Black and Beyond the Black. You can blame Dave because he had them a lot higher than the Temptations, and we're blaming him. So otherwise super close. Here's to a fantastic. I suppose we would have asked that question. What are our expectations for 24? But we've gone on long enough, so we'll do that on the first show of next year. So thank you, my panel. Thank you, my crew. Congratulations once again to Beyond the Black and Beyond the Black album of the year. Brilliant stuff. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh, one last thing, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you very much.
Crimbo.
Have a cracking time. Keep safe, and we'll see you in 2024. Bye, everybody.
Bye.